Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This week's Parsha is Behaalotcha, and I always say how the Torah portion kind of tracks whatever's going on in our lives. And I was brought to mind, I was very aware of someone this week that has been struggling with a case of ringworm. And how many in this room have ever gotten ringworm? Raise your hand. Okay, this is a fair amount. And so I got it. Those of you that have been, how many has been to movie night with me when we've had the dinner and movie night? How many have laughed at me when I put the trash bag over the seat? This is because I got ringworm when I was 8 in my hair. I don't know if I ever told you the method to my madness. And so I have never wanted to put my head against those seats. And so long before COVID, I've been wrapping them up with trash cans. But, this is a condition, it's very common, but, people don't want to catch it. And when you do get it, you feel a little ostracized. And so I said, well, I want you to know that my sermon this week happens to bring up, a skin affliction. And I don't want you to feel targeted, because many a time people will say, Rabbi, were you speaking to me? I even had, and I was not speaking to this one person. They were so convinced they actually left the temple. So, the reason for this, and I say it, is that our lives parallel. There's a reason that there's a cycle for the Torah, and it reflects what's going on. So, Behaalotcha comes from the book of Numbers, and it sheds light upon the time that the Israelites have been wandering and wandering and wandering through the desert. A lot is covered, but the most well-known account in this Parsha, and many of them have a special one, like Crystal chanted Parsha Naso, the last Shabbat that we had with the Birkat Kohanim. This one has Heal Miriam in it. Moses' sister gets sick, and it's a big moment. And so Miriam, Moses' sister, comes down with Sara'at, a skin affliction, which is sometimes translated as leprosy. So those of you who might do Torah study with Mark Tannen tomorrow morning, I don't know if he's going to cover this, but how many of you have discussed this in the past? It's a big deal. So the Parsha, for those of you that don't know, actually says, there was Miriam stricken with snow-white scales. When Aaron turned, that's Moses' brother and Miriam's brother, toward Miriam, he saw that she was stricken with scales, and Aaron said to Moses, "O my Lord, account not to us the sin which we committed in our folly. Let her not be as dead." So Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, El na rafana la, O God, pray, heal her. Right before this, we hear about a little sibling rivalry and Lashon Hara. These siblings, some of these tribes, they don't get along sometimes. And what do? Some not nice things, and they gossip. Anyone here ever do any of that? But we don't want to come down with a skin affliction. But this is what happens. So Miriam and Aaron talk about Moses behind his back. They complain, they gossip, they ruminate about how he married a Cushite woman. Then they go farther, and they complain about how Moses is treated differently by God, the other people, and they work so hard. Aaron's the high priest, Miriam, the well followed her. We sing it at the Mechamocha. The sea parted, all the women followed her dancing, the whole stories that we hear. They didn't like this, and so they talked about this, as people naturally will do. And then what happens is that right at the moment that they finish speaking this Lashon Hara, almost instantly, Moses' sister Miriam is struck down with this disease. Moses, whom we're told has a stutter, he has a speech impediment, suddenly calls out perfectly, distinctly, clearly, enunciating every single word. El na re fa na la. O God, pray, heal her. 5 words. So clear on one hand, yet on another, words that over centuries have inspired very varied commentaries. Rabbi Cheryl Peretz speaks about this parsha, saying, the editors of the Eitz Chaim Torah commentary explain that the short, terse words demonstrate Moses' true ambivalence in praying for his sister, because Moses is caught in a dilemma. On the one hand, Miriam had spoken openly against him and deserved to be punished. On the other hand, as his sister, she evoked his compassion. The result is this terse prayer: "O God, pray heal her." 12th century Spanish commentator Abraham Ibn Ezra points out that Moses cries out to God in pain, Vaitzach, using the same verb that in other instances highlights visceral pain and raw emotion. Rashi tells us that the formulation shows how Moses is asking God to say, if indeed God is actually going to heal Miriam or not, and how this particular moment, this particular request, and this particular way that the phrase is constructed would help God to respond in a way that Moses wants. Furthermore, Rashi explains that Moses' prayer was only 5 words, so that Israel would not wonder why Moses was praying so long when his sister is in trouble and needs him, nor would they find concern in the length of his prayer for her versus his prayer for all the people. So as a result, because there could be sibling rivalry between Moses and praying for his sister and the people of Israel, so Rashi says Moses was politically correct and kept it short. Being Jewish. Another Spanish commentator, Rabbeinu Rachia, from a century behind Ibn Ezra, teaches that the intention is to show that Moses' prayer was not just one of light, of ore in his heart, but a prayer that he actually articulates out loud with his mouth, in keeping with the Talmudic ruling that when one prays, he or she must move the lips and enunciate the words of prayer. So in other words, there is recognition that in moving the lips, we assume a certain shape in the atmosphere through the use of our voice, our breath, and our articulation. So as a result, we change the landing of the words in the celestial sphere and in how they land with God and are received by God and acted upon by God. That's why our prayer is meant to have kavanah and intention. We're not just supposed to randomly be doing without, thought, heart. So this is something that we give merit to every time that we recite the Amidah, like we just did. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. You don't know how many bar mitzvah students I have had to teach not to throw this verse away, because it's probably one of the most important ones that we can say, and they get it. And I had one bar mitzvah student that was struggling with whether or not he believed in God, and it was at this prayer I had said, just tell me before your bar mitzvah, find something that you're connected to, and I've told you this sometimes, but it was at this prayer, we were rehearsing at the Ark, and he said, Rabbi Cantor, it was Cantor at that time, you never asked me what my reason was. I said, well, I was waiting for you to bring it up, and whatever. And so and it was at this prayer, and he said, God is the answer to the things we can't explain. And when we're standing here and opening up our mouth to praise God, we're putting out the intention that hopefully our words matter, our deeds matter. God spoke and the world came into being, and hopefully there's some entity that's listening and that can help us and guide us. To quote the Velveteen Rabbit on this parsha, when Miriam, it's actually a website, when Miriam is stricken with Sarah, Moses prays a short but effective one-line healing prayer. You should know it by now. El, na, refana, la. Please, God, heal her. Now, this is another take. My daughter loves the number 11. She was born on the 11th. This prayer has 11 letters, which we can learn from This is meant to point us toward the 11-letter name of God, one of my favorite parts of the Torah. He gives this to Moses as his name at the burning bush, Ehyeh, Asher, Ehyeh, I will be who I will be. When we use this short prayer to pray for healing, we implicitly call upon God who is ever changing. We call upon the God who is continually becoming to heal and strengthen our loved one who needs transformation and change, and us when we need it. There is so much suffering in the world, especially right now, whether it's global or more personal. When we are suffering, or better yet, when we have loved ones who are suffering, we need to cry out to God for healing, and if it's meant to, it will come. In Torah times, the afflicted one would be removed from the camp until they were declared free from disease. And yet this condition of dis-ease afflicts everyone. It afflicts the one who personally has the skin affliction, who's suffering, and it afflicts the people who love them. No one wanted Miriam to be cast out of the camp. Moses didn't. Aaron didn't. Aaron wasn't cast out, and he was talking with her. Why did Miriam get it? Moses didn't want to see his sister separated for her affliction, no matter how or why it happened. So he cried out to God with a clarity that he had never been able to achieve. It was so critical and so important that his stutter was eradicated, and what came through was pure kavanah, pure devotion and intention in his prayer and his plea to God. When you love someone, truly love, you do not want to see them suffer. Sometimes you'd actually rather take the suffering on yourself, right? Rather than see them in pain. And that is not our task. Whatever God afflicts us with, for better or worse, is for our own growth and the evolution of our soul. We all have our own journey to which we are accountable. And as I said to Blade as he was getting ready to pass, this is just one chapter. The journey still goes on. The pain and the suffering our loved ones endure are theirs to bear. Hopefully, our love and our devotion will carry them through until that time when they can rejoin the camp or evolve to some higher plane that God actually decrees. It is through our suffering that we grow. We can actually come closer to God if we allow ourselves the freedom and this courage to let go and have faith. And then we can be truly the best we can be, physically, emotionally, mentally, psychically, and spiritually. Ehyeh asher ehyeh, I will be who I will be. El na refana la, O God, pray, heal her and him and them and us. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. Shabbat Shalom.